What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. You can see we are doing a set of headlights on the Hilux, so I'm very excited about this. I was kind of going back and forth whether I wanted to do headlights or not, and well, I decided it's going to be worth it doing a set of LED headlights. For one, it's going to look a lot better, and two, the most important part, they're going to work a lot better. The headlights that come factory in these trucks really aren't that great, so these are going to be much better on the road at night. You're going to actually be able to see where you're going. This truck is a little bit different because it has 4 headlights. Now, how these ones function is the outer headlights are a low beam and a high beam, and then the inner 2 headlights are just high beams. And with a lot of Toyotas up to like 98, I believe, the truck sends a ground to the headlights to actually turn them on and switch between high and low beam. So that is why we picked up this harness. This is a fix for that. This takes the ground signal, switches it to a positive signal. That way your high beams and low beams work. Now, we only need one harness because when you're switching from low to high, that's when we need the harness. With the other 2 headlights being just high beam lights, we don't need a harness because obviously there's only one power and one ground. So they're gonna work just fine. But like I said, for the outer 2 headlights that use a high and a low, you need this harness. Now, like always, all this stuff will be linked down below if any of you guys wanna check this out. That's enough talking. Let's get to work. Let's pull these headlights out, get these things in, get them mounted up, wired up, and see how they work. Damn, this stone black looks so good. Now, you guys know I've been doing a ton of Cerakote. I haven't powder coated in a while, and I gotta say, I missed how fast and easy this stuff is. You don't have to wait for it to dry, you don't have to wait for it to cure up. You just pull it out of the oven, let it cool down, and it is good to go. So fast, so easy. If you guys aren't powder coating your parts by now, I don't know what you're doing. You gotta get set up for powder coating. Now you guys see, I just use a regular cheap household oven. I think I paid like 50 bucks for it off Craigslist. And then a $300 powder coating gun, a few other little things you'll need. The powder is cheap. It's like 10, 15 bucks a pound, depending on what color you want. The powders are very cheap. Like you can do a full set of wheels with about 2 pounds, and this stuff goes a long way. If you guys wanna check out any of my powder coating gear, go ahead down in the description box, check out the links. Also, if you're looking for any powders, go hit up prismaticpowders.com. They have the best prices, the best quality out of any powders I've ever used. Go check them out, prismaticpowders.com. Well guys, we have run into a snag. So these lights do not fit at all in these buckets. You can see they're pretty much square with the back of the light here, whereas these buckets are kind of designed for that big taper, that big angle on the back. So I can really only get these in. I still got about 3/4 inch to go, and I guess without cutting the entire bucket apart and redoing it all, I don't know if we're gonna really be able to make these fit. So I'm going to return these ones, and there's a few other on Amazon that I found that kind of had this same profile, this same taper on the back that'll fit a lot better. I didn't like the light itself as much as these ones, but I also did fire these up, and I'll show you guys real quick. I fired them up, and the beam pattern on these lights is kind of honestly terrible. I'll show you guys real quick. All right, so here's the light. I'll show you guys the pattern. You can see there's just those big bright like squares in the center. Other than that, it doesn't look too bad. So that's the low beam. I'll turn on the high beam real quick. So here's the high, which honestly doesn't look that much different. There's just a little bit more light up top, but those I don't know, I know for a fact those two big squares in the center would bug me. So either way, I think I found some other ones that I like. I'm gonna pick those up and see if those work. Other than that though, all this harness works really good. So if you guys are new to this harness, it does take these two relays here, and it takes the input. You can see that's plugged into the factory light here. I tapped into my power on one of these wires going over here. I just tapped in over here so you don't have another wire up top. But either way, this is very simple. You just a power and a ground on each headlight, And then my high beams are all factory. One thing I think we'll have to do is swap these wires around, and they should work as is. We don't have to mess with those at all. Like I said, when you do a high and low beam with this factory Toyota wiring, you have to do this harness with those 2 relays. Well, our new headlights showed up, and while these aren't as fancy and as cool looking as the other ones we had, you can see they're actually going to fit. We got a lot of taper on the back, and these are actually, they're an LED, but they're a reflector as well. So I think the light output is going to be a lot more even on these. One thing we will have to do is there's these little alignment tabs you can see right there. Now the factory lights have those, but they're in the wrong spot. So I think we're just gonna have to cut into these buckets. They actually have 3, 1, 2, 3. So we're just gonna have to cut one more alignment tab notch right here, right there on each of these buckets to get the lights to fit in, and then we can bolt everything together. You guys want a good prank to pull on somebody? Do this. So take a 4-pin trailer plug, and all you need is a power or the brake light and the ground, which is white and brown. These horns are no polarity, so you just wire just power and the ground to this horn here, and then plug this in on someone's car on the trailer plug, a little 4-pin. And it is hilarious when they hit the brakes, the horn sounds, and they freak out. And they plug this thing in, and we'll see if it works. Get up here, hit the brakes. We should have a horn. No, something went wrong. Well, I wired this wrong. Instead of using the brown wire, so the white's a ground, the brown wire is actually tail lights, and you got to use one of the yellow or the green because that is a blinker or a brake light. So we're going to swap that out to a green or a yellow and see if that works then. All right, this should work now. We got green and white hooked up. Let's plug her in and see what it does. Now we should hit the brakes and get a honk. There we go. Try this prank, guys. It is so freaking hilarious. Make sure you video it. We did this to one of my buddies, and we were dying laughing. All right, we got these lights on and we got them working. There is one little strange issue I'm having with the running lights here. You can see the inner lights are dimmer than the outer ones, and that is because how it's wired from the factory. So that harness we did only is hooked up to the high low beams. These inner lights here are just high beams, so that is all wired like factory. And how these things function from the factory is the truck sends a ground when you turn the switch on instead of a power wire, so it's missing a ground. I don't know how that is still working. It's obviously still on, but it's dim without a ground. I can ground that wire and it goes to full power, but as soon as you turn the headlights on, those high beams turn on. So I'm not that worried about it. I honestly kind of like the look of it like that, so I'm just gonna leave it. Like I said, not too worried about it, but what I am worried about is how these things work. So I'm gonna back it out of the shop. It is dark out. Let's go try these lights out, see how they work, and we do have to adjust them. Just looking at these patterns, these things are way better than those other lights. That's a low and the high, and these things are very, very even output, as you can tell, and very bright. So let's get them outside and see how they look outside. All right guys, we got these adjusted. All I can say is wow, these things actually do work very good. There's the highs, there's the lows. You can see the output is just very, very clean and it's very even, unlike those other lights we had. And these things are very, very bright. Now I'm not gonna go drive it down the road or anything, but we can kind of get a good idea of how these things look right here. Let's go down the driveway and I'll kind of show you that, do as much driving as I really can right now. Being in the middle of winter with this truck is not much fun driving. So these are the high beams. I'll throw on the lows. You can see even the lows are plenty bright. Let's get going down the driveway. You kind of get a better idea. There we go. You can see there's the brights. These things are very, very bright, especially with having 4 lights as brights. It's very bright. So if I had to rate these lights, I'd give them a 9 out of 10 just because we don't know long term yet. We just know from just starting them up and testing them out. These things are very bright. They're very even. A lot of these LEDs that I've had and like even other trucks I've had, they're super blotchy and they have just really hot spots like those other lights I had for this truck. Those big squares in the middle, that bugs the crap out of me. I like a nice even light, and with these lights being a reflector housing, that distributes the light nice and even. So like I said, it doesn't look quite as good and as fancy as some of the other LED lights out there, but for one, they actually fit these buckets, and 2, the light output, like I said, it's a lot more even. So like always, you guys can find these lights down below along with the harness, everything else we used. I'll have links for everything in the description box if you guys want to go check any of this stuff out. Well, that is a wrap for this one, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it. Once you go smash that thumbs up button, comment, subscribe. We'll see you in the next one.